up to make another play later on. That's when that Baron situation happened, and that was probably a little misplayed as well. So I thought Tempo Storm's comp was very hard to play, but they had the opportunities to win that game.
Yeah, they definitely showed that they knew how they wanted to approach things. They didn't necessarily have the exact execution they needed, specifically around objective fights. They technically had, as you mentioned before, the only frontliner in the entire series. When you corralled people into a Baron pit like that or into an Elder Dragon pit, they needed to be able to pull the trigger. But as we've talked about before, when they didn't have hard CC, when they didn't have a go button, pulling the trigger was their weakness.
And now Gold Coin United back on the blue side, able to change their bans up pretty heavily. They're banning out a lot of their own champions that they like playing on the red side last time around, so you saw them banning LeBlanc and things like that. Now Tempo Storm is stuck on that one. Gold Coin United goes for the Elise and the Malzahar so far. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Sion again potentially, though Quas didn't take it last game when it was open. Maybe they want to keep him on champions that can pressure it a little harder.
Well, especially things that can win lane a little bit harder. We had the Renekton. He got first blood, but Solo was doing a good job kind of holding his own. It was Solo's team fighting on the Rumble that left a little bit to be desired. He had some decent ultimates, but he died a lot.
And it is very hard to play Rumble without anyone else to go really in with you. No frontliner to set you up. No ultimate that you can just layer yours on top of. So it was tough to play, and he was focused heavily. The fact that he was able to keep in CS was nice. He had a couple good ultimates to clear waves when he was under pressure. Overall, not a bad Rumble game. Pretty happy with that one out of him. And how we see the Ezreal targeted. You had a pretty interesting Ezreal stat from last game, right?
Yeah, that was a 39.7% damage share Ezreal from Freeze. He did 52.7k damage, which is almost as much damage as Tempo Storm did as a team in game number 1.
Yeah, so probably want to take that one away.
Bam.
That's off the table. Tempo Storm still banning out Phoenix's Cassiopeia, and Gold Coin United returning to the first pick Varus now that they're back on the blue side.
Yeah, so first pick Varus going to be going over to Mash again. Did some very good things with it in game number 1. Was off the table in game number 2. Did not want to have that one running around, but it is going to continuously be the Graves pickup from Tempo Storm. They keep going back to it. Sentinel had a rough game 1 on it. Did pretty well in game number 2, though.
Yeah, the Vi Hover not quite as effective here after you've already locked in your jungler. So,
supposedly
Sentinel
Graves,
not really scaring anyone with the potential Vi pick right now.
Graves is a marksman. What if he goes into the bot lane again?
I mean, more often the top lane.
Well, I mean, it is Quas. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, it's where, top lane Graves used to go, but instead it's going to be the Sivir lock-in.
And this is a different kind of utility pick coming out from Freeze, although it's not going to necessarily be as pokey and proddy as the Ezreal was in game number 2. It's something that Tempo Storm has run in the Challenger Series so far. The only issue is they lost with it, and they lost with it when it was a 45-minute game and she had 6 items.
Yeah, I mean, those are the situations that usually you see Sivir thriving in. Her ricochet crits can destroy backlines as long as you're hitting a tank, which you usually are. But they did lose that game, like you said. Gold Coin United gonna grab the Rengar here. A pretty successful first game with it for Santorin. Now he's on the blue side, not banned away, able to grab this one. He had some good early pathing, set him up with some CS advantages and some pressure advantages. So hopefully Gold Coin United looks like they're trying to recreate their draft from game 1, which worked out very well for them.
Yeah, they can't do the entire draft, though, as the Cassiopeia has been banned away, but they are going to wind up picking up the Karma. I believe that was the same kind of support that was down with the Varus last time around. So
they had the Soraka first.
Oh, they had the
game.
Soraka, that's right, because Mad Lice played it twice in a row.
Yeah, it looks like Gold Coin United wants to keep the pressure up a little bit more this time around. The Karma, one of the strongest laning supports right now. Malzahar off the table being another strong one. So Karma pretty much safe to blind pick at all points. Tempo Storm responding with the Lulu, it looks like. Kind of like a single target comma, has a lot of shielding, has a lot of speed ups, but only for one person.
Yeah, that's very true. And the Lulu's kind of risen in popularity recently. It's normally been something you just kind of pick against the Malzahar or something in a composition where there's a lot of single target focus. You wild growth, you shield something, it seems to be very effective. But we have seen Lulu being kind of paired with just about anything. United Zazel, their support player, has played it like 5 separate games in a row, and it's not necessarily against a specific support. It's just something he likes. It's still pretty much a lane bully itself.
Right, it's usually fine. Has a little bit of harder time bullying the Karma, though you can still win that matchup for sure. And we see the Shen Orianna bans as well as the Sion coming in. Top lane tanks being pinched a little bit again here. The Renekton seems like a pretty important pick this series. I'm going to be interested to see if Tempo Storm decides to grab that one blind or potentially have to play into it. We'll have to see what the last ban here is for Gold Coin United as well.
So about 10 seconds to think that one through, and it is going to be the Renekton, though, almost immediately after that. So that will not be going over to either Solo or Quas, which means we could potentially see a whole different flavor of top lane matchup this time around. The Rumble is still on the table. The Swain is still on the table, so we have seen those already in this matchup. But I mean, when you're dealing with Solo, who can pretty much play anything, he still has the Nautilus and the Maokai and the Poppy available to him. The really big question is, what's Quas going to play?
Yeah, I think that is the big question. Wouldn't be surprised to see them leave that for later. Tempo Storm grabbing the Syndra here for hat-tricks. It had been banned away in Game 1, I believe, so he was not able to grab that. Phoenix grabbed it relatively early in Game 2. I think it was a first pick in the second rotation then for them on the red side. So hat-tricks finally getting his hands on the Syndra here, going to show if it's worth the priority that Gold Coin United was putting on.
Well, then that means what is going to be for Phoenix if the Rumble does get locked in for the second game in a row. So that's going to be Solo saying, I could play this into pretty much whatever you want to give me, but the Jace has been left on the table this time around, and that's going to be what Phoenix takes in. This is a very dangerous, very pokey, very proddy, very deadly comp from GCU.
I'll hold my analysis until I see the last pick coming in from Tempo Storm, but I gotta say, based off early looks, I really do like what Gold Coin United did here. The Camille is what it's going to be. It's going to be a bit of a skill matchup in the top lane. Pretty much favors Rumble a little bit here. And I mentioned before how you have to worry about the Jace pick when you have the Rumble because it basically enables it, giving you enough magic damage to not have to worry about becoming too physical damage heavy. Against Tempo Storm's team comp, you wouldn't have to worry about that. No one's going to be stacking armor too much on that top side. But it still is a very threatening team comp when you have a Varus who can lock someone down, Rumble layers the ult on top, Shock Blast coming as well, Rengar can start fights. The only problem with the Gold Coin United draft is it's a little bit squishy, but they have really strong laners as well.
So Gold Coin United, very lane dominant, whereas Tempo Storm have gotten a lot of things that they seem comfortable on, specifically the hat-trick Syndra, something he's played to great effect in the previous Challenger Series matches, and Quas on Camille, it's something he's undefeated on in 3 different games, although that was a different flavor of Camille back when Quas was somehow able to get his hands on it.
Sure, and I think obviously Tempo Storm's going to be happy to get their hands on a number of those picks, but the problem is the matchups that they got them in. Rumble is one that, you know, you're happy to play that into Camille. Similarly, Jace actually does decently into the Syndra pick. He often, you know, runs the exhaust. I believe I saw Phoenix lock that one in. Really cuts into Syndra's all-in potential, and Jace does a ton of damage, so if there's any early focus given by the junglers, it's very easy for the Syndra to go down early, and then Jace can actually start controlling that lane a little bit.
And we'll have to see if Tempo Storm is going to be able to survive those lane phase matchups. As you mentioned before, it's playoff time, and it's do or die, and this is game number 3 with Gold Coin United already up 2-0 over Tempo Storm, so quite literally, if Tempo Storm do not do, they will die this game.
It is their last chance to do then, Tom. As we see, once again, both teams fairly low frontliners, though, like we mentioned, the Camille, pretty good for starting team fights out. Does have a decent amount of survivability as well. As you start getting a little later in the game, you start buying a couple more tank items. But I do think Gold Coin United's draft is pretty strong in the early game, having pressure in a lot of these lanes.
Well, of course, now it's Quas on the Camille, something a little bit more of a carry, something a little bit more with split push potential. We could see Tempo Storm falling back onto something where they kind of let Quas create space for them on the opposite side of the map, and then see if Gold Coin United is going to respond to him or respond to the core group of 4 on the opposing side.
Well, we will have to see. The other thing to touch on is, of course, that Santorin is playing the Rengar back into the graves. Kind of put on a little bit of a clinic versus Sentinel early that game. We see a little different level 1 here. Gold Coin United getting fairly aggressive around the bot lane. Forces Lulu to take W level 1. That's actually great. That makes it very hard for Tempo Storm to contest the push of Gold Coin United in level 1, basically winning them the very early laning phase for their bot lane just off that small group up. Don't have to give up anything to do so. Don't have to skill up anything you don't want to. So a nice little advantage early on there.
Yeah, and while GCU did get a little early advantage in the bottom lane, on the top side we did see Santorin there, and he actually got a chance to tell us about facing off against former teammates in Phoenix and Quas, but he says it's not going to get in the way of winning tonight.
I definitely want to make sure we beat Quas. He's a really good friend of mine, actually, and I love working with him. He's a really nice person, but I still want to make sure that I get the upper hand.
It's always sucks a little bit losing to your friend. Obviously, you don't want to beat your friend, but it's even worse when you might have to worry about them rubbing it in your face a little bit.
I mean, I think when you can qualify for the North American LCS promotion tournament, you do want to beat your friends.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You always want to beat your friends. And
okay.
It's especially bad when what you lose them in is something that's your job as well.
That's very true. Well, Santorin did give Quas a little bit of love in game number 1. However, it was not nearly as much reciprocated by Quas in game number 2, where he was the one that got early game advantages from his new friend in the jungle in Sentinel. We'll see now if Santorin, though, on this Rengar, game number 1, he was out jungling Sentinel in his own jungle at that point and was putting a ton of pressure on Quas in the top lane. We'll see if history repeats itself in this game, as it is still that Graves versus Rengar matchup.
That is the question, and of course, like we were mentioning, the Rumble generally going to have a small push advantage. Not small, a pretty good push advantage over the Camille early on, which is kind of what set up Santorin for that big CS advantage in the first game where he had the pressure in the top side. Solo was able to go in, make sure that he was safe stealing those Krugs, could be the path available for Santorin again. And here we see that bot lane, like we said, totally backed off the wave. No way to contest that when you got a Lulu level 1 with W.
Yeah, so already level 2 advantages gained by GCU. And you mentioned earlier just getting a little bit of damage in that cheeky invade early on from Gold and it did cement them a bit of position advantage in lane. Of course, the Sivir matchup, she eventually will end up being a late game monster. She's going to have really high damaging ricochet crit. She's going to have a ton of wave clear. But in the early stages of the game, she has a spell shield to survive some of the poke damage. But when you got Karma and Varus wailing Qs down on you, you can only spell shield so much.
Yeah, it looks like Freeze missed some sort of CS early on. He has not hit level 2 while she has. So he doesn't even have that spell shield available yet. Finally gets it, most likely. See if he actually did grab it level 2. You don't always do that usually. Waiting to level 3 or something. So there we see Sentinel actually wrapping around for a gank from behind, but Gold United has the wards to spot this one coming. They're going to back away. Maybe they can turn on Sentinel. He senses that one. Does not want to risk getting turned on and giving away double buffs.
As soon as he saw Gold United back away, he too decided to move the opposite way as Sentinel has his own double buffs, as does Santorin, but Santorin already pinging into the fact that it looks like he wants to go for those Krug invade again. Sentinel doing the same exact thing. Seems that he's kind of caught up to Santorin's little tricks in that top side of the jungle, but he will be making his presence known in mid lane, though. As soon as Santorin wanted to go up there, Phoenix got aggressive in the mid lane. That was another big reason why Santorin was able to get advantages in game number 1, was the Cassiopeia play from Phoenix versus Hatrix.
Right, always forcing Sentinel to come mid. Here you see, despite the fact that Sentinel showed up mid, they were not actually able to push that wave into turret. Phoenix, like I mentioned, Jace is a nice matchup into Syndra, and so even though it was nice that Tempo Storm was finally able to grab that pick for themselves, because they obviously seem to like it, the matchup that they secured it for is not great. Same with Quas's Camille versus the Rumble of Solo, down around 6 CS right now as well. Both solo laners falling slightly behind.
And we did see Sentinel eventually making his way after his Krugs, only to be a sad Graves. He realizes that they had already been stolen away by Rengar. Santorin getting a little bit pushy in Sentinel's own jungle here. He's going to wind up landing the bola, just saying that this area might be yours.
I can hit that. But...
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
just throwing the bola out there, sending a message.
It's a warning bola. The next one will be the deadly one.
Right. And he does have to be careful. Falling behind a little bit once again, not quite as bad as it was in the first game, but it's still pretty early. And Santorin really does seem to key off the pressure that his solo laners are able to grab early on. Though Phoenix, a little bit of a mistake here. Luckily for him, Hatrix has no mana, not able to commit harder to that trade. Does not force the exhaust out of Phoenix.
Yeah, got stunned up in tower range, but had the health bar to keep himself alive. But Sentinel is around this mid lane area. Though unfortunately, as it Graves, all he can really do is walk forward and shoot out that end of the line. It's not going to be enough to deter Phoenix from, you know, staying in lane, getting all this CS.
Yeah, it looks like he's finally able to help push this wave, and unfortunately, 2 visits from your jungler early on does actually end up stealing a decent amount of XP, as we see the bot lane getting a little aggressive here.
Yeah, Freeze actually taking a lot of damage, and Match is going to wind up getting the exhaust out of Sheep. Early trades going in favor of GCU pretty much in every lane.
Yeah, GCU already up to about a 500 gold lead. 5 minutes, almost 6 minutes in, just off the back of standard laning. And this is a little bit of a concern. This is somewhat reminiscent to Game 1. We have not seen the Phoenix 2v or 1v2 kill that he managed to get in Game 1 and Game 2 yet.
Not level 6 yet.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of time.
Got
I believe it's
level.
still coming. I mean, it's already happened twice. Got to happen the 3rd time, right?
No, well, Quas already being pushed in against his tower, decides to go back, blows his teleport to get back to lane, picked up a null magic mantle in addition to a second longsword in his corrupting potion, whereas now Solo looks like he will recall and buy he himself, picking up a couple of additional items in just a second. But all across the board, everybody kind of just pushing out their lanes for the side of Gold United, going back kind of almost as a team, as the Haunting guys is the pickup there for Rumble, Ninja Tabby being picked up early on by Santorin's jungle Rengar. Looks like the side of Tempo Storm utilizing the fact that they see nobody from Gold United in lanes to kind of move forward, put a little bit of vision down, and figure out where everybody went.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a little bit careful when you go for those big group team recalls early into the game. It can signal that it's free to go for the Dragon. Luckily, the bot lane of Tempo Storm still needed to recall, so there was no huge threat on the Dragon there. Just a little bit of vision control. Tempo Storm is secured in the bot side jungle of Gold United. Now Gold United's turn to go invade and get their own. So trading some vision down the bot side.
Both of these teams definitely like their vision controls. Mad Life going to charge up the Mantra and try to steal the Gromp over the wall. Don't think he succeeded, but in the top lane, Quas and Solo continue to get a couple of trades down. A little bit of magic resistance on Quas means that he's going to be going okay in these trades against Solo, but Solo's picked up a Haunting guys of his own, so we will be stacking a little bit of magic penetration to peel through a little bit of the magic resistance, and we continue to see Santorin to decimate the jungle of Tempo Storm. Sentinel here, 25 CS to 53 through the Rengar from Santorin. And this is the second time Santorin's gotten this pickup. She steals this red buff away, forces the flash out of Sentinel. This is a conscious choice of Tempo Storm to get the Graves over the Rengar twice in a row, or 2 games out of 3, not ban it away, and give it to Santorin, who seems perfectly fine to play.
Yes, Santorin is crushing this game again with all the play. Here we see a little bit of a level 6 trade, getting some pressure down onto the bot lane of Tempo Storm as well. It's very difficult to deal with this as a jungler when you basically have 3 lanes who have been losing. And he's been getting invaded over and over as well. A lot of vision control. You saw Mad Life trying to harass him on the Gromp. That stalls out your clear because you're trying to make sure he can't steal it with a mantra Q. It's just very annoying to play.
Yeah, and so every side of the map for Gold Coin United pulling ahead again. Very reminiscent of game number 1. And Sentinel on his Graves going to be hard-pressed to try to get something done, although it does look like that he's going to give up on these Krubs to go for Solo, pushing forward a little bit too far. Quas coming in, the Hextech ultimatum is thrown down. Solo's going to get stuck up on that one. Sentinel's going to come and get some damage down. The Equalizer's popped. He flashes back over that one, but Quas is going to flash to follow up. The slow had landed. Is Solo going to be able to get out? The scrap shield is there, but it's going to be Quas with the hook shot coming back up for first blood.
Sentinel and Quas team up again in game 3 to grab first blood. Finally, something starts going their way, able to not quite tie the gold up, but at least get themselves a small advantage. Though we see Gold Coin United looking to make a play on the flip side of the map. Jace is roaming down as well. Santorin might not be able to stop these guys from getting through him.
Yeah, Santorin's very far into his enemy's side of the map. He's going to continue to get some damage on the freeze. Actually pops the heal out of the Sivir as well. So even though he's just kind of on zoning duties here in the bottom lane, gets a summoner spell for his troubles.
Right, gets a summoner spell, gets a lot of damage down this bot turret. At the same time, Phoenix is stealing away the blue buff. They're going to be able to grab this turret most likely. So a good play out of Sentinel on the top side to get first blood, but you have to wonder what they give up. It seems like a pretty heavy price to pay.
Yeah, Gold Coin United is going for everything. Match is still pushing the first tower. Phoenix is stolen away a blue buff. The Infernal Drake is on the map, and that's being focused on by Gold Coin United. So sure, Tempo Storm gets themselves a first blood, but they're losing pretty much every other objective on the map right now.
Did they give up too much, though? Santorin caught in the pit now is going to have to flash out. Almost goes down.
Ooh. Collateral damage was too close for comfort in that one.
Still, overall, definitely worth it. In the long run, you lose a flash for an Infernal Dragon on a team that basically everyone can use it. You get the first turret of the game as well. You get the enemy blue buff for Phoenix. This is not looking too hot for Tempo Storm early on. The one shining bright spot is that Quas was able to pick up that first blood. Camille is a champion that can snowball. You're going to start hoping that he starts alleviating some of this pressure.
We want to see how powerful Quas is on Camille after some of the nerfs came in for the champion. We haven't seen him play it in the Challenger Series since those nerfs actually went through. When he did wind up getting it and it was still super, super strong, he pretty much did Quas things on a very, very strong champion. So we'll see if his Camille is going to be able to create the pressure on the map that Tempo Storm needs to kind of survive in some of these disadvantages they have in the other lanes. We do see Quas getting a little bit pushy in the top lane with Solo. Solo, though, getting a large chunk of damage traded back on. Still an early game rumble with an early haunting guy. So even though there's a Hex Drinker on Quas, still going to be taking a bit of damage.
Yeah, and just to point out what happened in that trade, he misses the East for the stun, and then just the last little tick of Flame Splitter, I believe, procced the passive shield from Quas, which then times out, allowing Solo to re-engage the trade. Quas has no cooldowns, no shield to negate that damage, and gets chunked a little bit. Not the end of the world, but just a little thing to know about how the trades are going up there.
Well, all across the board, Gold Coin United starting out with advantages in this game. Not necessarily as powerful as they were in game number 1, as Phoenix still has yet to register a kill for himself, whereas he had about 2 or 3 underneath his belt as Cassiopeia the last time we saw Gold Coin United with an early game lead, although we do see Santorin now in the top side of the map, has the Thrill of the Hunt available. Will they be going for a dive on Quas? Looks like they definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah, it looked like that was more of a counter gank attempt there by Santorin. They had a decent amount of control in the bot river. The bot lane of Gold Coin United had roamed up there to secure some vision, and so they were predicting him to be up on the top side, which he is, but he's not actually looking for that gank attempt.
No, Sentinel making up for some lost farming time here. 49 CS compared to the 74 of Rengar. So even though it is jungle CS, it's a little bit skewed in different ways based off of who's taking the Krugs and who's taking the Gromp. It is still a large gold advantage in the favor of Santorin, despite the assist going over to Sentinel. Across the board, though, every other lane pretty much very close to even in CS. As Solo maybe gets a little bit too close to the sun there, as Sentinel was still on that top side of the map. Solo took a tower shot, and he's going to pay for it. Sentinel picks up a kill.
Yeah, A little over-aggressive there by Solo, gets stunned up under the turret, takes a little bit extra damage, but he might have been in trouble anyways because Sentinel came in, finished off Solo, who was isolated by that octagon. We know, Twitch chat, it's not an octagon.
It depends how you look at it. Still not an octagon.
Realistically, I don't know. How else can you look at it?
Well, you could look at it in the sense that you throw down a challenge and you meet them inside the octagon. So
Right.
that's the way I look at it anyway. Then again, what am I, a stats guy?
Yeah, you shouldn't be looking at it from a sayings perspective by idioms or anything like that.
Meanwhile, Coldcoin United have rearranged their lane assignments since they did wind up getting that first tower goal in the bottom lane and giving it pretty much all to Mash. He's completed his Ghost Blade already all by itself. They decide to put Jace into a side lane, and he's content to sit there, going up against the Syndra, who's not nearly as content to sit there, although she does have her completed Marilla Namicon, so will be content to just clear waves back and forth, although she is in a long lane, does not have a Ghost, though, has taken the exhaust in this matchup.
Yeah, you have to be scared about the Rengar ganks a little bit more in that long lane. You see her playing very far back. Santorin is a little bit around the bot side. And obviously, Avaris is very happy to sit mid lane, charging up these Qs, shooting them in. The bot lane of Tempo Storm has rotated there as well. They're trying to hold on to the lane. Phoenix rotating up now to join in. This has basically been what Gold Coin United's been doing during this time, moving whoever's bot lane, getting pressure to mid lane, keep trying to pressure the turret. They have slowly been whittling it down, though it's not the explosive early game that we quite saw from game one.
No, definitely a little bit more toned down, and a little more reminiscent to the early game of Game 2, although it is Goldcoin United who are still eking small gold advantages across the map in this one. Tempo Storm, though, this is what we saw them doing in game number 2 that eventually wound up leading to them taking some gold advantages. They weren't able to really hold on to it as they came across into the later stages of the game, but they were able to stem the bleeding from an aggressive early start from Goldcoin United, slowed things down a little bit more to their pace. We'll have to see if they're actually able to slow down Santorin's Rengar in this one.
Well-timed slow down there, Tom, right as the Bola came out.
But you know, it's like these things write themselves. This Quad's actually getting aggressive in the top side here, throws down the octagon, and the flash away from Solo, though, is not going to land that hookshot stun. Quas going to have to back away.
Yeah, Solo does not decide to re-engage with the ultimate. Quas still has his flash available, would not be able to net a kill with it. It's going to look like he's going to focus more on resetting, holding on to that, and just going even versus the Camille, who Quas has done a good job kind of getting that advantage in the top lane. Like we were saying, Tempo Storm needed pressure somewhere because they were losing all 3 lanes. It looks like Quas will be the saving grace in this early game as Goldcoin United has stalled out a little bit at a 1,000 gold lead.
Yeah, Phoenix is continuing to pressure down on this bottom side of the map. Hatrick's running a little bit low on mana, so Phoenix will eventually get this wave to crash into the tower and start poking away on it. We see the rest of Goldcoin United hovering around this mid lane, slowly poking it down in this kind of 1-3-1 setup that they have going on for the time being. The same exact time, we see Madlife and Santorin meeting up on the bottom side of the map, continuing to get wards down in the enemy jungle, so they know that Phoenix is safe to continue pushing up against this tower. Hatrick's taking a chunk of damage, a chunk of his mana bar missing, has to go back. This forces Sentinel to rotate over. That means Goldcoin United has a little bit more pressure to push up in this mid lane as we now see Solo moving down from the top side to group up.
Right, and with that pressure, they'll most likely grab the Ocean Dragon, which has just spawned. Santorin thinking about grabbing the Scuttle Crab before he starts that, going for the Ocean Dragon instead. The rest of Goldcoin United is hovering around, though it doesn't look like they're actually going to help him out with this. They say, Santorin, it's your turn to do this one.
Well, Goldcoin United will be getting their dragon relatively uncontested as the rest of Tempo Storm are kind of forced back onto their side of the map. A wall of wards is pretty much preventing them from going any farther forward than their own blue side jungle. So it is going to be the second dragon of the game going over to the side of Goldcoin United. And they're going to be happy to do that. Game number 2, even though it was a very long, stalled out game, one of the things that was their saving grace was the 4-stack of dragon by the time Elder came back.
Right, you can always go for the dragon stacking, slower pace game. That seems to be what Goldcoin United favors, though I wouldn't have minded seeing a little bit more proactive play in these first 15 minutes. With the advantage that they had in the early game right away, they grabbed the dragon. Maybe you can put your bot lane to the top side to deal with that Camille, which was starting to get control. You can put the Jace up there against it. Obviously, you can see Quas has grabbed the Maw Malmortius. They finally sent the Jace up there to deal with her. So nice to see them finally starting to move some more members around the map as opposed to just defaulting to roaming their bot lane mid or putting into a 1-3-1.
Well, they still have their bot lane in the mid lane, although it looks like it will not be without a little bit of help. Rumble has swapped down onto the bottom side of the map for Goldcoin United, so lane assignments have been a little bit flipped. At the same time, it looks like Tempo Storm are going to be responding the same way, sending hat-tricks back up against the Jays, despite Phoenix having gone back and picked up that Hex Drinker and Merc Treads for himself, so he does have a decent amount of magic resistance. Fact of the matter is that Camille itemizing for a full maul the Malmortius first means that Jace is going to be shredding through with some of that lethality coming in.
Yeah, we're getting into a little bit of that lane assignment, do-si-do. The Syndra roams up to match back up with Jace. Camille runs down there. Rumble runs mid. You're going to see a lot of movement all over the map during this portion of the game.
We see Santorin getting a little bit aggressive for a control ward. He's going to take a little bit of damage there from Sentinel and Sheep, but Mad Life going to throw out the Mantra Q, force everybody back away. At the same exact time, Mash and Solo are continuing to edge their minions closer and closer towards this mid lane tower, and Tempo Storm, once again, just kind of stuck on wave clear duties all across the map. Santorin, though, not quite done, says that this is still my jungle, technically, as he invades up there, goes for the red buff. At the same exact time what they're doing with Santorin, though, there's a dive on the hat tricks, and although he's got the exhaust down pat, looks like nobody's going to survive that one, as Mad Life and Phoenix will pick up a kill.
Really good job there by Gold Coin United. They are grabbing control of the topside jungle. You see Tempo Storm doing their best to try and answer it, but they're dealing with Santorin stealing a red buff, which opens up Mad Life to go up to the top side for the two-man dive on their own. The exhaust making sure that the Syndra can't trade 1v2, which is always the concern when you go up against a Syndra like that as a support. They're able to get the kill there, and they're able to grab their second turret of the game, getting the lead up to almost 3,000 gold now.
And Gold Coin United, a little bit slower paced in game one, a little bit faster paced in game two, has some advantages on the map. Once again, it's really coming into the form of these objectives. Tempo Storm has 2 kills to the lane compared to the one of Gold Coin United, which actually they just got in that top lane. But they got 2 dragons, they got 2 towers, and Tempo Storm once again stalling out on the objective front, not being able to secure any for themselves yet, despite getting that first blood.
Right, and the thing is, the first bloods always seem to come for a trade. Most of the time that Tempo Storm is getting stuff done around Quas, they have to be giving up something around the bot side. And we talk about how Tempo Storm loves being able to play around freeze. And the fact of the matter is they have been struggling to do so all 3 games. They had that 1 or 2 forced gank attempts down in game 2, which didn't really result in any objectives.
And that was when Freeze was playing the Ezreal, where he did deal a large portion of damage in the later stages of the game. Did not have that go button like he did on the Ashe in game number 1. Does not have that, hey, let's go button like he does on Sivir in this game. And actually, the early lane phase was punishing in this matchup here. Normally see the Sivir to survive against the Varus pick. It doesn't necessarily do a lot against him in lane as far as like trading potential goes. And we saw Tempo Storm's bottom lane suffering from that. The same exact thing was the mid lane matchup from Hatrix in game number 1. They tried to put some pressure on there and get him to a safe level 6, but it got turned around by Phoenix. This time around, it's Gold Coin United capitalizing on that bottom side weak matchup from Tempo Storm, which is normally their strength.
Right, Santorin did have a CS advantage, but neutralized a little bit here by Sentinel, but I don't know if I've seen a Rengar ult this game. Have we seen one?
If memory serves correct, I don't think we have.
I mean, this is one way to play Rengar, the ultless Rengar. Focuses on farming, controlling counter jungling, and allowing his teammates to make plays.
Well, you might see a zoning ultimate. Santorin was a fan of those in the later stages of game number 1, but it looks like with the amount of pressure and damage they had from the poke coming out, they don't even need a zoning Rengar ultimate as the third and final outer tower of the game goes over to GCU.
And this is, to be fair, a little bit wild. Why we criticize the playstyle of Gold Coin United. I think if you looked at most games, you would say if your Rengar has not ulted really 20 minutes into the game, you probably are not using your Rengar super efficiently. But despite that fact, Gold Coin United does have that 4,000 gold lead, has control of the game, CS advantages, turrets, dragons. Things looking pretty good for them here in game 3.
Well, this Rengar is all about vision control, and between Santorin and Mad Life, Gold Coin United throughout the Challenger Series has had a large amount of that. Not necessarily a large amount of wards, which technically Tempo Storm has the most plays, but a large amount of vision control. Mad Life has the most wards killed per minute for any sort of support. Santorin is up there in ranks for junglers as well, so the vision control and strangling people out. Maybe you don't need a Rengar ultimate if you're just going to wind up getting that second bola. That's the one.
Here you see Mad Life able to force out the ultimate of Sentinel. Or Freeze, excuse me, gets the Sivir ult out for just the tether. Not bad. Limiting Tempo Storm's options in terms of trying to punish Gold Coin United at any point here.
And they won't have that up by the time the Infernal respawns either. That's coming up in about 35 seconds. The cooldown being popped on that now means it won't be available till about another 30 seconds after that dragon spawns. So that could be another point of contention that Gold Coin United will get. Another dragon, another objective.
And we'll have to see. It looks like Tempo Storm is focusing on grouping up a little bit more to contest this one, as it is the second Infernal Dragon. They're really concerned about the snowball potential of Gold Coin United. Though they don't have great vision control right now, Gold Coin United is grouped up trying to deal with it. And you see, right now, Sheep is recalling And Syndra's heading down to the bot lane to control this minion wave. Looks like they might not even be able to contest this Infernal Dragon at all.
Camille's actually backing off towards her own side of the jungle without the support there. Ward in the pit, so they know that Santorin's going to start this one up, but the rest of Goldcoin United collapsing down on this one. This is going to be another objective conceded by Tempo Storm. We said that coming into this matchup, it was Santorin saying, hey, I need to get better dragon control. Objective control is one of my weaker points. I want to try to work on that one. He's working on it extremely well. Tempo Storm is the one that's been struggling the entire series.
Yeah, then that one dragon in game 1 that honestly Tempo Storm shouldn't have been able to get most likely. Santorin has done a great job of controlling the dragons. That one little hiccup aside, they had 4 in game 2 and I think 3 in game 1. So they've had a lot of dragons so far.
3 in this game, 2 in the first game, 4 in the second game. They've only given up a mountain and an elder dragon.
Not too bad overall. We see here Quas finally able to take the first turret down on the side of Goldcoin United. Shrinks that lead just a little bit closer back down to 3K now, but still a pretty substantial gold deficit 23 minutes in the game. It's not the end of the world. Goldcoin, like we said, definitely not snowballing as hard as you would have hoped, but they are still in control of the game.
Yeah, and to their credit, this is something that we've said all throughout the Challenger Series. While they may play things a little bit slowly, they are still in control, and they're still bleeding out vision control, and they're still controlling the pace of the game. So while it may be a little bit slow to the eyes of us watching the game, it's them controlling the pace of the game, getting the advantage that they want, and being comfortable enough to close out these games. Sure, it's a little bit slow pace, but it's clean, it's methodical, and it's working for them, especially if this is in game number 3, and they're looking like they might take this series 3-0.
Yeah, they're in a decent position to do so. Just to touch a little bit on that vision control point that you were talking about, you often see supports on lower tier teams having more wards placed than the high ranking teams, just because you actually don't have to lose as many wards over the course of the game. And when you're playing from behind, your wards often get cleared out the most, so you have to place the most. So there is a little bit of a push and pull there where if you are vision controlling really well, you tend to not lose as many wards as a team playing from behind.
Fun fact, the most warding support in the North American Challenger Series was Team Gage Vincent.
There you go. Just proves my point. I believe in the LCS. I would need to check this, but I think it might be special on Team Dignitas. So.
Yeah, it's Ollie on Immortals.
Oh, Ollie now.
Close enough, though.
Yeah, I think they're all up there. But you notice it's not C9, it's not TSM, it's not the teams that are in the lead of the LCS.
It's also how effective you're being with your vision control, which is also why you look at the wards killed statistics. And when Mad Life topping the charge for supports in that one, you don't kill a ton of wards every minute, but when you're killing half a ward every single minute of the game, that's a large amount of vision.
Right, and here we see with that, Goldcoin United rotating up to the top side of the turret, top side of the map, trying to get this inner turret down, get it down below 75% health just with a single wave. Moving between that mid and top wave wall on the bot side. Solo just tries to hang on versus Quas, doing a decent job overall.
Yeah, and as long as Solo is able to just hang on with Quas, that means that Quas is going to be able to create the significant advantages that Tempo Storm really need him to be able to do to force someone else from GCU back to deal with him, so that the 4 versus 3 core of Tempo Storm can actually start to take back some of the control of their own jungle and out of these lane pressure that Goldcoin United is putting down on them. That's been one of the strengths of having Quas in his very unique champion pool, is a lot of times you don't know how to deal with a certain pick he's pushing with, or how to play around a certain champion. And we saw very early on in the Challenger Series him dominating 1v2 matchups with his Swain pickup. But Goldcoin United very heavily targeting him in the pick and ban phase, being able to play around his unique champion pool and utilizing their own vision control to kind of shut him down. As we do see actually Hatcher's getting a little aggressive, throws down the ultimate. Santorin's not going to go down, but it will actually stop GCU from pushing for a bit.
It does slow GCU's push down for a moment here, but it's not going to actually change the state of the game at all. It just gives them a little bit of breathing room. And it does seem like Tempo Storm really does struggle when they don't have lane priority early in the game or have guaranteed lockdown CC. Game 2 with the Renekton pick, Tempo Storm looked a lot better. Their bot lane was basically even. This time around, they're losing top, mid, and bot lane. It's always hard to play when you have 3 losing lanes, but game 1 was a similar situation, and they have not been able to build one of those comps that they were so well known for in the Challenger Series throughout the year.
In game number 1, they wound up taking the Ashe, and it's been available in every other game since then, but they have shied away from it and just have not been taking that signature go button for them. It was the most successful champion for Freeze throughout the 5 weeks of the North American Challenger Series, but with the adaptations coming in from different picks in the jungle, different picks in the top lane, and even some of the different picks in the support role, only having one of those kind of go buttons just wasn't working out for them in game number 1. It seems that they kind of changed things up a little bit. Got a lot of speed up potential, and they got a lot of lockdown potential out of Camille in and of herself. They don't necessarily have the let's catch back up by all ulting this one guy and trying to blow him up style that they've had success with in the past.
Right, and the part that makes that so successful for them is that when they do fall behind, which has happened a couple of times, they can just find someone invading a little bit too far. So there was an instance where they almost got into Santorin once or twice that they just didn't have quite enough CC to actually finish him off. So Santorin's been able to run away at very low health values, and if they just had that one extra bit of CC, maybe they're able to convert that into an actual kill and start dragging the game back in their favor.
Well, the 2 times that Solo's died in this game in and of itself has been the fact that he's been pushing a little bit too far up against Quas in lane, and Sentinel's been able to just kind of hook around the backside and blow him up. But with a little CC, that could be potentially something that they would go for. But in this one, it's going to be them being caught out in their own jungle. They have actually been able to establish a little bit of vision control back on their side, so that they did not see the Rengar waiting in that brush, and we did wind up using the collateral damage from Sentinel just to get himself out.
Right, once again, Tempo Storm forced to use a lot of their engage abilities defensively. Santorin getting chunked out, fighting for vision all on his own.
He wants that control ward, but he can't see that there's 3 other people on the other side there. Mash will wind up coming back up. That control ward gonna bloop back up to 4 full bars.
The control ward that could.
Regenerates. That's also really annoying. The fact that those regenerate so fast.
I'm happy about it. Glad overall you can't slowly whittle down control wards, makes them a little bit more valuable. Ocean Dragon spawning right now doesn't look like Tempo Storm is even considering contesting. Quas recalls. The rest of the team still focusing more on getting topside vision control back. This will be the 4th dragon of the game for Gold Coin United. Looks like an Ocean Dragon will be the last one as well. Gold Coin United has the chance to grab all 5 dragons this game. Gonna make a steam dragon with a bunch of ocean and infernal.
Did you learn that from the quiz I gave you on the Elemental Lux skin?
No.
No?
I learned that from having a brain.
Ah, okay. I don't have one of those.
Yeah.
That's why I play AD carry. But in this game, Gold Coin United are going to wind up stacking up the dragons. That's 10 out of the 12 dragons this entire best of 5 series so far that they made able to control. So continue with that objective dominance of Santorin. Once again, going to eat that Syndra ultimate, but still not going to go down. The Karma Inspire shield, keeping him alive. Just unable to find picks on GCU. I mean, at this point, Rengar, not necessarily the tankiest guy in the world, but does wind up having that Black Cleaver for a little bit of extra HP. He's not going to wind up being one-shot by anything Hatrix can throw at him right now, especially because Hatrix has had to go for that Zanya's Hourglass early on. Gives him a little bit of damage, but it's more of a defensive option than going for something like the Luden's Echo or Death Cap as the second item.
Yeah, usually you often see the Leandry second on the Syndras that are doing well, and obviously that's huge if you're trying to burst someone who you're basically trying to do it alone. Here, Quas opening up onto Solo.
He
early.
wants to try to make a play for himself. He's going to wind up utilizing the Equalizer, uses the Zanya's Hourglass. Solo taking a lot of damage, has to try to flash away, stays within the heal of the Redemption. The Scrap Shield comes out. Quas going to flash forward. He wants to get a solo kill on Solo.
Quas able to make a play there. The ultimate by Solo was not enough to keep himself safe. Quas was able to sidestep that, not get burned down too low, and then re-engage once he was out of his Zanya state. Gold Coin United looking like they want to punish this a little bit. Hit the Black Power ultimate.
Oh, there's the Chain of Corruption coming out. While Quas is taking the bottom lane tower. He's going to teleport into this fight, but it is going to wind up being canceled. It did dissuade GCU. They used their initiation. They're not able to get anything from it.
Yeah, they're able to get teleport advantage most importantly, and now they're going to look at the Baron as a potential target here. They start this one off. Gold Coin United, or Tempo Storm, excuse me, still in range to try and contest this one, and relatively healthy.
They did get Hatrix chunked out a little bit. Freeze had a little bit of damage on him as well, but they most importantly know that Quas cannot join this fight, but he has taken 2 towers for himself on the bottom side. Solo's going to respawn in just a second, but his Equalizer will not be available for this one. The Baron's going to drop really low. It will be taken away. At the same exact time, Madlife has been able to take down Sentinel. Nice. They've rooted up Hatrix, and that's going to be another kill going over to the side of Gold Coin United. At the same time, Quas is being chased away by Solo in the bottom side of the map, so that's a Baron for 2 tower trade overall for GCU.
A little bit risky of a call there by Gold Coin United. Sentinel was able to get into the pit and look at potentially stealing the Baron, but good focus overall. They burn down Sentinel before they finish off the Baron. Pretty close overall in terms of the timing of that, but they did make sure to kill the jungler first. That secures the Baron for them, and then off the turn, they're able to get 1 extra on Hatrix, who was summonerless after the fight, but Quas still trying to pick on Solo a little bit here.
Whew. Solo throws down the Equalizer, he takes a ton of damage, and Quas even standing that one.
Here comes Santorin, though, wants to avenge his buddy, gonna root up Quas, burn him down. Gets the shutdown onto Quas, pretty good to get that one, and to stop Quas from being able to join in with the rest of Tempo Storm as Gold Coin United finishes off that top inner turret that they had gotten low so long ago.
Yeah, and they still wind up coming over with the Baron buff off of that one. So this is the fight setup here. Even after Quas took down Solo in the bottom lane, they knew with the teleport advantage they could try to burn this one down.
Yeah, you see Mad Life trying to get the root onto Sentinel before he can get over the pit. They see that he's coming in. Phoenix does a good job focusing him down. They're able to burst out Sentinel, then finish off the Baron. And then there's the flash bowl up by Santorin, gets them 1 extra kill. Nice to be able to grab that one overall. Definitely helps in transitioning that into more objectives. And now Goldcoin United finally have their Baron buff, might start taking down more of these inner turrets.
They've already gotten a 4th tower, and the 5th one's going to fall relatively fast after that. So Goldcoin United, with this Baron buff on their members, are going to be pushing down quite aggressively on all fronts. The bottom lane is slowly pushing in their favor, while we do have Solo's Rumble going down to that side, but the rest of Goldcoin United are grouped up as 4 members strong in this mid lane here. Tempo Storm, they're at the same point that they kind of were in game number 1. They're just kind of sitting back. They have to clear out waves. Quas has a little bit of priority, already being a level 18 Camille about 32.5 minutes into the game, but there's only so much he can do by himself in these situations.
Yeah, I mean, it was great that he was able to grab 2 turrets. Should have helped bring the gold lead back closer into Tempo Storm's favor, but Goldcoin United answer instantly, grabbing that Baron buff. Makes you wonder why they didn't pull the trigger earlier, Tom. Seemed pretty easy despite the fact it was a 4v5.
I don't know about that one. And they did have no teleport on Quas, so once the teleport was gone, that was good.
No, I guess.
Oh,
I mean, they forced the teleport
they forced
out.
the teleport
yeah,
out.
I'm saying, why not do that right away when Santorin's alive with teleport, or Solo's alive with teleport too? They could have forced that play way earlier into the game.
I guess Goldcoin United a little bit gun-shy themselves. However, they finally did pull the trigger. It worked out for them. Is now on the hunt, throw the hunt path on both sides, and everyone's away from each other.
Unable to find a kill for either team right now. Goldcoin United take some looks at this mid turret because Hat Tricks and Freeze were down the bot lane. Solo starts getting chunked out there, able to pop his Zanyas to stop the rest of that damage from coming through.
And with the Syndra abilities on cooldown, they go in for that tower. A good equalizer rips across the backline there from Tempo Storm. Sentinel's going to be burning down, but barely stays alive. That's going to expose this mid lane inhibitor. Goldcoin United, off the back of an engage that looked like it was Tempo Storm's doing, are the ones that turn it around and take the first inhibitor of the game.
Yeah, very good job by Goldcoin United there, using the Rengar ult to almost win a team fight after we saw the Syndra ult not do too much to Solo, who was able to Zanya's a decent chunk of the damage there. And then once that burst threat's out, you don't have to be scared of nearly as much. So Goldcoin United grabs their first inhibitor with that Baron buff. That's really what we were hoping to see out of them. There's no reason they couldn't get an inhibitor with that buff, and they managed to do so.
Now Goldcoin United 7 towers down for them. A very large gold lead on their side, and the last elemental Drake of the game spawning now. Looks like they're going to be going for the complete objective control, going for that 5th and final dragon off the back of a very successful Baron buff push. Quas was split pushing down on the bottom lane, but with nobody on the map from Goldcoin United, he is going to wind up starting his own recall, realizing that, hey, maybe somebody's over there, and they do see that he gets out before Goldcoin United can collapse.
And now Goldcoin United grouping up around the bot lane, meeting up with Solo, hanging on to the bottom inhibitor turret as the next objective that they want to focus down. They're almost 10,000 gold ahead in the commanding position so far here in Game 3.
Yep, Goldcoin United with a 7,500 gold Baron power play.
Not bad.
That's what happens when you stall out pushing towers. You get a Baron and just take everything all at once. Is Solo getting a lot of his health bar ripped through there. That's going to be him having to go back just a little bit. He does have his teleport available and the equalizer up. But it's still going to be an opening for Goldcoin United to rush forward. Uses that Rengar ultimate, the zoning ultimate, to force everybody back from Tempo Storm, make them think twice about going.
Yeah, overall, I do like the usage of that Rumble ultimate. You know, a lot of the burst is down from the Syndra. You have to recall your Rumble anyways to go deal with the split pushing Camille. Doesn't cost you too much to get a look there, potentially. As Quas looks like he wants to dive Solo into the turret.
Can he deal with the split pushing Camille? The Zonias gets popped. Camille has to flash out of that one, even though she threw down the challenge in the Octagon. The same exact time, though, Goldcoin United are going to be pushing down onto the bottom lane inhibitor. That is the second one of the game going in their favor. And now even the split push Quas having a little bit of issues going up against Solo's Rumble if he's going to be diving towers that way, but it looks like he's going to hook shot in, get the slowdown onto Solo. Quas healing himself back up with that Ravenous Hydra. Flash away from Solo. Camille taking up the tower, but healing off of all those minions, doesn't even care.
Right, I mean, this is one of the big problems when you have one of these sustainable split pushers is that they chunk out the opponent who does not have a way to heal themselves back up. They pop into the jungle, take some camps. Next thing you know, they return basically at full health. He re-engaged onto Solo there, but you see how important that Baron power play was. Solo is basically ahead in items versus the Camille, who was winning the matchup versus him almost the entire game. And so you see the global objectives heavily helping out the split pusher there.
Well, Santorin, we heard from him before that he wants to beat up on his buddy Quas, pops the ultimate and chases him very, very far away and decides that instead he's going to make a control ward his prey, as now Goldcoin United, 9,000 gold in the lead from this game. That Rumble, like you mentioned, objective gold has really been the reason why he's able to kind of go toe-to-toe against this Camille. The Camille can maybe go one-on-one with the Rumble, but as soon as something else gets thrown into the equation, they have to back away. And Tempo Storm, hard-pressed, backs against the wall. One inhibitor left alive to try to keep their hopes of a promotion tournament spot still alive as Quas winds up going in immediately, but Sheep's going to wind up falling. Quas did get the Wild Growth and has a Guardian Angel available, but he has to flash himself out of that one already. Redemption on the backside will heal up the remaining members of Tempo Storm, but Breeze gets caught up in the front line from the Chain of Corruption, flashes onto the Equalizer, and Solo picks up a kill as Phoenix jumps into the fray. They're going to pop the Guardian Angel. Another kill goes over onto Hat-Trick Syndra. And Mark, I think this is going to be the last fight of this series. Goldcoin United, a 3-0 victory over Tempo Storm. They're going to go into the finals. They got a spot in the promotion tournament.
A 38-minute victory here in Game 3 for Goldcoin United. They won all 3 games pretty handily. A little bit of a close game in Game 2. Went very, very late, but they showed that they were the superior late game team. And here, showing that they're the superior early game team, having control almost this entire early game.
Yeah, they definitely had control of the game, although it was a bit more of a slow-paced game compared to game number 1. They controlled every single one of the 5 dragons that spawned. They were able to take all of the outer towers very quickly. They didn't even lose a tower until Quas was at split push Camille status in the bottom side of the map. Very controlled game from them.
Yeah, and you have to look at Tempo Storm. Seems like they got a little outdrafted again this game. I was saying even in the pick ban phase, I was like, uh-oh, I think they ended up pretty strong here with the fact that they're able to get the Jace into Syndra matchup. They got the Rumble blind as well, which is generally fine. It was a good job by Tempo Storm targeting the top side again, getting Quas going. You saw that it did open up a lot of opportunities for them, but they were losing elsewhere on the map just a little bit too hard, and especially Santorin getting a monster CS lead early on again.
Yeah, and it was the kind of rinse and repeat of game number 1. The Rengar got so many advantages over the Graves just based off of the early game jungle patterns. He was able to go in and steal the Krugs away, even though Sentinel knew that it was happening this game. We saw multiple pings out to that one. It was just the aggressive play from the solo lanes of Goldcoin United working in tandem with the Rengar that got Santorin those advantages and eventually translated to advantages across the map.
Yeah, you see that Hat-Tricks early on needed Graves to come mid a couple times to try and push the wave out. It took them forever to actually be able to do that. So Sentinel had to respond a little bit more to the requests of his laners, while Santorin is given a lot more room to breathe. But with that room, he's able to make big advantages for himself.
Even though he didn't wind up using a Rengar ultimate for like the first 20 minutes of the game, he didn't necessarily need to, because all their advantages were coming through the fact that by working in tandem with his laners, he was able to get vision advantages. First, it was on the top side of the map to control the Krug area and the red buff. They stole the red buff away, and he got into a duel. Blue Graves' flash extremely early on. And then he transitioned it into the bottom side of the map where he was zoning away Sivir from her tier 1 tower at like 8 to 10 minutes into the game. Like,
right, and I think the term "didn't need to" might be a little bit of not the right word, because sure, you don't need to do it to beat Tempo Storm here today, but if you want to get into the LCS, this wasn't the most convincing performance. I think their slight indecision around the mid game, when they should be able to make some of these dives happen and start getting actual pickoffs, they still struggle in that area heavily. And you saw when they finally did pull the trigger, a minute later they had Baron, despite the fact that they were doing almost all that 4v5. And sure, they were able to force the TP out, but there's no reason you can't start making these plays earlier.
Yeah, well, that's what you did mention. Why didn't they make that teleport usage play earlier on? And even I was a little bit baffled at that. I was like, oh yeah, they probably could have done that. So although they were very calm, cool, and collected with the way they played the game, you know, we do kind of pick on them a little bit for that and saying that eventually they will wind up establishing these leads. They can kind of go for a little bit more of an accelerated pace with utilizing those advantages. And that's something that, you know, it's not necessarily a fault. It's a small fault of theirs. They had to kind of show that up by the time they get to the promotion tournament, but it was dominating enough over a team like Tempo Storm.
Right. You hear, though, that this team's goals are, you know, really looking forward to the LCS. Phoenix is talking about how, you know, it would almost be a disgrace a little bit if he couldn't get the team there. So he feels very compelled to start stepping up even further and getting more leads, despite the fact that you could probably say he was one of the MVPs of the series so far.
And Phoenix was definitely a big driving factor into how GCU won this one, as was Santorin, because, well, I guess Santorin is the guy with the smite, but the team in general had impeccable objective control, and they positioned very well around things, especially around around the Baron buff area, which is one of the big things that wound up breaking open multiple games in this series, especially this game number 3.
Yeah, and so this is after we saw that they had picked off Solo in the side lane. Kwasa made a play onto him, and then that was when the first time Gold Coin United really forced with a lot of their ultimates. It got the ultimate out, and then here they're able to go into the Baron. Really nice focus by the team, making sure they blow up Sentinel first. You saw Mad Life getting the tether over the wall. When Sentinel does go in, Phoenix makes sure to jump on him right away. They burst him down right before they finish off the Baron, and then they get a nice follow-up kill also onto Hatrix. No longer with that flash because he had to use it in their forced attempt just before that.
And that leads into a 7,500 gold Baron power play that eventually winds up winning Gold Coin United this series. And now I'd like to welcome Solo to the broadcast. How's it feel to go 3-0 against Tempo Storm?
Feels pretty good. Did you guys enjoy the 4v4 as much as I did?
Yeah, I mean, you like playing, 1v1 League of Legends?
It was interesting. Rumble's not my favorite champion to just be 1v1 in, but my team did a really good job of forcing elsewhere and kind of making up for it.
Yeah, and calling it a 1v1 really isn't that fair. I mean, you did receive a lot of attention early on by Sentinel in games 2 and 3. They seemed to focus heavily a little bit on you. Did you feel like that was something that they wanted to do to get Quas going, or was it to control you, or what do you think led to Sentinel bringing so much pressure to you?
I think just because I was kind of playing the most risky and they were playing the most like snowball in the top side. I definitely should have played a little bit smarter though, but overall it was pretty well played by them, so hard to avoid.
And you definitely dealt with the pressure extremely well. We saw that in game number 2, you were the victim of first blood. You were a victim of being picked on game number 3, but you're still able to kind of go toe-to-toe against Quas in multiple matchups on the Rumble. Was that just something that was a you versus Quas kind of thing, or is it just something about the Rumble pick that you guys kept going for?
Well, we knew that as long as I just kind of like held him at towers and our team's proactive, we made TP plays, that Rumble is just like so disgusting in team fights, we'd be able to win through that.
And speaking of making TP plays, it did feel like there was a little bit of a lack of them in Game 2 and Game 3. Is this something you guys want to look forward to improving moving on into the next round in the finals? Or do you think that you guys really like playing this kind of slower, more methodical pace where you really grind out these victories?
Well, we've been focusing more on kind of just being slow and methodical, getting dragons, being smart about our rotations. But we'll be a lot faster like as the weeks come and as we improve.
Yeah, I mean, the dragon control was a huge factor in the course of the series, especially in Game 2. Having that double Mountain Drake let you burn down a number of the Baron buff and Elder Dragon later in the game. Who is the one who really kind of makes those late game decisions where they say, all right, we got to burn this objective down? Is that Santorum with the smite, or is it someone else?
Well, Lucas is usually the most vocal when it comes to focusing on objectives, and he knows the most. He's most confident about like when he can smite and when we can turn and when we need to just burn the objective. So everyone like listens to him when he speaks up.
Well, you guys were able to objective control yourself into a 3-0 victory in this entire series. And of course, that means that now you've advanced to the finals. You're going to be taking on either E United or Big Gods Jackals, who play tomorrow. Who do you think is going to make it through that matchup?
Well, I think it'll be like a lot closer than people think. I'm hoping to see Chris play just because it's like the return of the Challenger God, right? And I think if he plays, it'll actually be a relatively close series.
And then you get to play him maybe in the finals, right?
and then I'll get to play him. And then if I slay him, then I really did the
then you really qualify for the finals if you beat Chris, yeah.
Then it'll be the true test of the Challenger Series to see if you make it through the promotion tournament. Well, I want to say congratulations on the 3-0 sweep of Tempo Storm, and good luck in the finals.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem, guys. And of course, we'll take a look at our updated bracket. With their win tonight, Gold Coin United are moving on to the finals against the winners of tomorrow's match. As we said, E United taking on Big Gods Jackals in another best of 5 series. And then the NALCS will return on Friday, of course, with the homecoming of NA legend Double Lip, surprise, joining the ranks of Team Liquid as they face off against Cloud9. So be sure to tune in.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to be a pretty crazy series to watch. I don't think anyone was expecting that kind of late season roster move out of Liquid, but they're showing they will not go quietly into the night.
That's very true. So that's going to be it for us tonight. So from myself, MarkZ, and the entire Challenger broadcast crew, thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Really low will be taken away at the same exact time. Mad Life has been able to take down Sentinel. They've rooted up Hatrix, and that's going to be another kill going over to the side of Gold Coin United. Just onto the equalizer, and Solo picks up a kill as Phoenix jumps into the fray. They're going to pop the Guardian Angel. Gold Coin United, a 3-0 victory over Tempo Storm. They're going to go into the finals. They got a spot in the promotion tournament.
A 38-minute victory here in